Hello, my name is Paige Greco, and for the Minor Religion Project, I decided to choose humanism and present it through a website. For the website, I used the platform Canva, where through the platform I was able to design it, and then Canva then created me a link to the website that you are seeing now. So, a couple of the things we're going to be talking about is first, obviously, what is humanism? The leaders and founders, core beliefs and philosophies, central religious books, sacred symbols, rituals and practices, life stages, and contemporary issues and movements. All right, so the first part of the website is the what is humanism. So I, throughout this whole project, use a lot of material from the American Humanist Association. It's a really great website if you're interested in humanism, just to sort of learn all of the history, all the facts, all the things that this association, which is a nonprofit, is doing. And they give us a really good kind of a basic definition of humanism is actually a progressive philosophy of life that without theism or other supernatural beliefs affirms our ability and responsibility to lead ethical lives of personal fulfillment that aspire to the greater good. So the idea of leading ethical lives of personal fulfillment, which is basics of other actual theistic or monotheistic religions, however, with the idea of it being without supernatural beliefs, without those in hand. Just the idea of leading ethical lives of fulfillment and aspire to the greater good without having a chip on our shoulder of this is who I have to do it for. It's you're doing it for yourself, for your own human experience. So some of the stats of humanism come from the and I use come from Humanist UK, which is another organism like the American Humanist Association, but coming from the UK, and they give us really interesting statistics. I found it very interesting when I read it that 29% of the population hold a non-religious outlook on life that matches the humanist one. And around 7%, almost 5 billion people, primarily identify with the label. So while there's only 7% that say, I am humanist, there's 29% of the population that is non-religious, but align with those values. So kind of interesting to think that while it may be a small pocket, a lot of the world can identify with the basic values of humanist thought. And as well, how this is interesting that in Scotland, where humanist marriages are legally recognized, almost a quarter of all of those marriages are humanist. So humanist ceremony is really growing. And again, these being stats from the UK, humanist ceremonies are prominent in a lot of areas and everywhere, really. Obviously some areas not being legally recognized, but I thought this was a really interesting video kind of talking about different types of humanist ceremonies, either that being marriages, whether it be that being funerals, baby showers, anything along those lines. Really interesting what this video says, so I'll play it now.
What is a humanist ceremony? Human beings have always marked the important events of life, like births and marriages, and commemorated people who have died. We do it still today, and for those of us with no religious beliefs, it's important that we can mark these occasions with honesty, warmth, and affection, using words and music that are appropriate. A humanist ceremony is a meaningful non-religious occasion created specifically for the people involved to be personally meaningful. It is conducted by a trained celebrant with the skills and experience required to bring significance to every ceremony and who works closely with families to create it. Humanist funerals bring people together to express and share sadness, but also to celebrate the life lived in a way that is simple and sincere. They are carefully written to ensure they are inclusive of all present. People often say afterwards how moving, sincere, and fitting they found the ceremony, and how much they appreciated its authenticity. A humanist wedding is a celebration of shared commitment based entirely on the unique aspects of the relationship of the couple. Couples have the freedom to write their own promises to each other. Humanist namings are reflections and acknowledgements of the joy, wonder, and responsibility of bringing a child into the world, which involve not just parents, but family and friends. They are chosen by parents who want the opportunity to celebrate, but also want their child to be able to decide for themselves as they get older what they do or don't believe about religion. In an age where more and more people live their lives without religion, humanist ceremonies offer a contemporary way of satisfying the timeless need to bring significance to life's big changes.
So the next thing that we're going to be talking about are the leaders and founders of humanism. So the roots and beginnings of humanism seem to stretch from different periods with interesting rhythm. Pictured below are some people who were instrumental in educating the world about humanist thought and belief of goodness without a God. So goodness without a God is actually a really big catchphrase from the American Humanist Association that they use for on their website that you will see. So the three gentlemen pictured to the left are going to be Dante Alighieri, Giovanni Boccaccio, and Petrarch. So these are prominent Italian authors that even before the Renaissance period were that were writing books and things that talked about humanist thought and how interesting enough that these ideas have really stretched on and stayed consistent. Petrarch definitely probably being the most prominent out of all three of them pictured. We know they all look the same. There are different people. So next are going to be the more modern ones. You got Charles Francis Potter, John Dewey, Julian Huxley, and Albert Einstein. Charles Francis Potter was actually founded the first Humanist Society of New York and was also the author of Humanism, A New Religion, outlining kind of the basic principles of humanist thought. This society was also had members Albert Einstein and Julian Huxley. They were probably the two most prominent of that organization, besides obviously Charles Francis Potter, the founder of it. And lastly, we have John Dewey, who was the author of the Humanist Manifesto, which I'll be talking about some more detail later as we get to the religious texts or religious texts. Next, we're going to be going over the core beliefs and philosophies of humanism. So, in the American Humanist Association, there was a lot of different sources that the website used, sort of pulling from magazines, different societies, stretching from all time periods that come together, sort of have this outline of what humanism really is and the beliefs and philosophies that come with it. So I'm going to read some of these from this part of the website here. So humanism recognizes human beings as a part of nature and holds that values, be they religious, ethical, social, or political, have their source in human experience and culture. The Humanist Society of Western New York states that the appreciation of art, literature, music, and crafts that are our heritage from the past, of the creativity that, if nourished, can continuously enrich our lives. Then we have Joseph C. Sommer saying, humanists consider the universe to be the result of an extremely long and complex evolution under imputable laws of nature. Humanists view the natural world as wondrous and precious, and as offering limitless opportunities for exploration, fascination, creativity, companionship, and joy. So I think all of these really label what the core beliefs of being that while we take what's the human experience and tangible things like art, literature, music, crafts, everything that come with the human experience as our philosophy, as well as the idea of science being a leading part, is because there's no supernatural kind of God that humanists believe in. They believe in evolution and nature and science. Overall, the core beliefs and philosophies can be summed up as follows. I wrote a couple of kind of just basic words that I think summarize pretty well about the core beliefs and philosophies that these different places are kind of talking about. That being human dignity, reason and science, ethical values, freedom, environmentalism, secularism, and education. All right, like I said before, we were going to get to the central religious books. So, author John Dewey was the writer of both the Humanist Manifesto 1 and Humanist Manifesto 2. Humanists tend to look at these texts as sort of a central book, and that in three parts lay out the true humanist worldview. So, while there is no religious text, and there's a lot of different books and readings that go over kind of these ideas. I think these three are very prominent and consistent to what humanists deem as their belief and what they think. The third one there obviously doesn't look as old because it's not, it's more modern, but it does tend to be called Humanist Manifesto 3. Even though that's not really the title of it. It's sort of deemed as these three books being kind of the leading ideas of humanist thought. All right, moving right along, we have the next point of our website, sacred symbols, rituals, and practices. So the symbol of humanism as through not just the American Humanist Association, the Humanist UK as well utilizes this symbol, and it's sort of deemed as the kind of the head of the religion philosophy, that being the happy human pictured above, right there and in the corner as well. Rituals and practices, there isn't anything specific of that just being the basic functions of that of the human experience, that being labor, art, science, philosophy, love, friendship, come closest to being the everyday responsibilities of those dedicated to humanism. That being you live every day to try to be better without kind of a head over you. You do that for your own satisfaction, and these different outlets of basic factors of everyday life come in close when you're thinking of what is a ritual or practice of humanism. Well, these are whatever we do day to day is going to be our rituals and our practices of us trying to be better every day. Alrighty, next we have the life stages of humanism. So, free of supernaturalism, it recognizes human beings as a part of nature and holds that values, be they religious, ethical, social, or political, have their source in human experience and culture. That comes from the Humanist magazine. So, the idea of it being free of supernaturalism, there is no prominent life stages that aren't just in line with everyday life. These facts make the life stages of humanism the same as the natural order of things. Our human life development is dictated through science. It is our action, purposes, and experiences that make life go forward. And this is sort of utilized in both of these photos that I have above for you that sort of just go through of the responsibility of everybody, especially in the 10 Commitments one, of what is important and valued throughout everyday life. And then the human life cycle, just regular things that everybody does. And that's sort of what humanists value of for the human experience. All right, lastly, we have contemporary issues and movements. So, especially the American Humanist Association, who gave me all of this information, it seems that contemporary issues and movements are real driving factors when it of members of humanism. They hold these kind of different issues really high, and they do a lot to battle them in the modern world in today's climate. So I have 5 that are up here. So we have defending non-theists and promoting humanism, religion and government separation, social justice, scientific integrity, and promoting peace. So they do this through lobbying public officials, bringing legal violations to court, engaging in public debate, working in coalitions, providing educational programs, sort of just to dismantle specifically Christian privilege in American government that seems to become more prominent kind of every day, it seems, almost. And humanists really try to make sure that there is a separation there, because even in our Constitution, it says in the Establishment Clause that in the First Amendment that there is no national religion, so why this doesn't need to be included. And humanists make sure that that is stated, because there's a lot of non-theists in our world today. Religion and government separation, same thing that I was speaking of before. Social justice, humanists take an intersectional view of social justice issues, recognizing that working to liberate all marginalized communities is the best way to lift the prospects of any one group. I like that one group thing, because I think that really sort of encapsulates what humanists sort of think of that, that it's the best way to lift the prospects of any one group is to help everybody. And as well as scientific integrity, that they are in favor of, as well as promoting peace, because there's no supernatural kind of idea, that it's important that public policy and education um, use that scientific study in our and education specifically. Promoting peace. Obviously, peace is a really big thing in humanism. That believing in cultural exchange, cooperation, peaceful conflict resolution, and diplomacy through multilateral institutions such as the United Nations are the most appropriate ways to respect human rights and make the world a safer place for all of its inhabitants. I think that's a perfect way to end this sort of run through of humanism. Here's my bibliography here. But the idea of humanists believing that um, the world should be a safer place for everybody, and if there's peace, that there is human dignity, and those are the really big things of humanism. So that is my project of my website.